My name is Larissa Green. I'm with Advana IRA, and I'm hosting this web conference for Bill Cook.
And just so you know, Larissa is who we go to for she's our custodian for our RA. So I'm not allowed to say who all uses her, but let's just say every friend I've got, and those are some of the best investors in the country. Larissa is our custodian. Advana is where we go. Her service is phenomenal. We've been using her for a very long time. So we love Larissa, needless to say. Larissa, do you have a phone number?
I do. Thanks, Bill. My number is 727-754-9963, 727-754-9963. And I just want to let everybody know that this is not the Advana office behind me. Of course, I'm working from home. We're all working remotely. So if you hear my dog bark or you hear my kids in the background, that's why.
Yes, and again, we're all making changes because of the virus. So this is being done on March 26, 2020, and a lot of us are, we are forced to stay home, and we're making big changes. And we're working from home. We're using webinars. We're using GoToWebinar. We're using Zoom. So a lot of changes are happening, and I think this will permanently change how we work. Moving forward, there'll be a lot of changes made where maybe people don't go into work every single day. They're all able to work from home because this works pretty well. So Larissa, it's okay. Don't worry about it. But thank you very much for hosting this. We can't do this without you.
Definitely.
So
well,
on this call, you're welcome. On this call, you have Joe English, who you can see, and then you also have Kerry Milligan. Now, because of where he lives, which is like in the middle of nowhere, no cell phone service, no video, they don't have computers. He has to rub two sticks together to get fire. So his camera's not working, but I do have a picture of Kerry. So there's Kerry. So with the other guy, say hello, Kerry. I did give him some hair. Kerry? Yes?
Yeah, Bill's jealous because I got more hair.
Everybody has more hair than me. So anyway, that's Kerry Milligan. And the title of this talk is The 3 Best Door Knockers in Georgia. Is that good?
Love it. Fits, man.
And I had a friend of mine, and I don't want to embarrass him, so I won't say this who he is, but I will tell you that he told me to drop out the word door. The 3 best knockers in Georgia, and he said, "Oh, your video will get a lot more hits that way." So that's what we're going to title is the 3 best knockers in Georgia. Y'all figure out the math. So what we want to talk about is Joe and Kerry are two of my very best friends in the world. They also live close to me, so I've always invested in a 5-mile circle around the Cartersville, Georgia Walmart. And Joe is kind of up in the Calhoun area, and Kerry is over kind of in the Douglasville area, but we're all close together, but we've known each other for a very long time. And we three are all door knockers, and we do it a lot. So we're very good at that skill. But what we want to talk about right now is the coronavirus. So it's March 26th, and the point of the call is what's happening right now? What are investors seeing, and what plans you're making? Because this is changing daily. So it's hard to make a plan and put it in stone. So this is the time, the more flexible you are, the better off you're going to be. But those people who, let's say you're a wholesaler and all you know how to do is a 70 cent on the dollar offer, and that is it. Well, you're in trouble because, lenders aren't lending, and the people who you would normally sell to aren't buying because they can't get the lenders, and you can't get in homes to see the homes. So my nose itches. Sorry, it's not the virus, it's my nose itches. So we're gonna have a conversation between 3 guys, and Larissa jumping in on the conversation too about what we're doing, what we're seeing, and the goal is to help you understand, what we're doing on the day-to-day business. So first of all, let's start out with Kerry because we can't see you. Can you give us a little bit about your background? When you invest, what type of investor are you? What are the things you're investing in?
I'm usually a buy and hold landlord. That's always been my portfolio is long-term. We do flip, I don't know, anywhere between 4 to 6 properties a year, just depending on what we find. Not much of a wholesaler, and we do micro loans through our solo 401k through Advanta. Thank you, Larissa. And
See, I didn't say it. He said it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No, you guys are so easy to work with. It's crazy. But anyway, so we're always so we've reached a point where we've got enough rentals. Now we're just trying to pay off debt service and get free and clear. And probably kind of do a little bit opposite. You know, we bought houses to hold. Now we're probably going to do a little bit more wholesaling just because I still want to find the deals. I just don't necessarily want to buy and keep them, but more maybe upgrade, always upgrading the properties. But that's where we're at.
Joe?
So I'm kind of a mixture of things. My primary thing is
I'll
buying
say
and
you are.
holding.
Wait, was that out loud?
That
I'm
wasn't
sorry.
allowed. We can get going. That's cool. But I'm a landlord at heart. I have a massive, big, huge formula whenever I go into a house that tells me what I'm going to do with the house. It goes like this. Can I find money to keep it? Nope. Or yep. And if it's nope, then we flip it. And if I can keep it, then we keep it. So we do a lot of creative financing things and things with private lenders and things like that for when we keep them, subject twos and things like that. But we do flip. And I'm going to say we flip quite a bit. When I say flip quite a bit, in my market, doing 8 to 10 a year is quite a bit. So I know other folks that do lots and lots and lots of them, and that's not my skill set. So for instance, we bought 16 houses last year and 8 of those were flips. We don't do a whole lot of wholesaling, but we have made some of those be lucrative. I like mobile homes a lot. So mobile homes is something that I play with that have been really, really good to us.
Thank you, Joe. And for Kim and me, we've been
We love
investing.
her.
Yeah, I added that in because we love her.
Yeah.
So with me and Kim, like I said, our properties are in a 5-mile circle around the Cartersville, Georgia Walmart, and we keep the area very tight. That's where we've worked basically since 2000. And before that, we were in another county. We started off in 1995. And I did my first creative deal back in 1990. So we've been at this for quite a while. Portfolio is single-family houses, rentals. Then we have a small mobile home park, and then we have notes, options, and as of yesterday, I'm starting to focus more on stocks. So we're just going to kind of blend stocks in because right now we think is a good time to buy companies because companies are on sale. So I'm not buying indexes, but buying good companies and putting toward some of the money towards it. So that's kind of what we do. And so let me start with Carrie, go back to Carrie. Carrie, how is the coronavirus affecting your business? You know, with all this scare, what's happened over the last 4 weeks?
Well, I've been out door knocking as usual, and
Whoa, you door knocked with the
I
virus
do.
going? Because everybody has told me that door knocking, you can't do that at all. So what's happening?
Well, people don't door knock in general anyway, so it doesn't matter what they say. Seriously, you know, and I didn't mean that to be rude, but it is. So I door knock a lot of pre-foreclosures, and people don't have, if they're home, they don't have a problem talking to me. And also door knock listed properties, and again, if they're motivated, they're going to talk to you. We just, you know, we do the 15 paces back, ring the doorbell, knock on the door, and walk back, and they'll come back and they'll give me information, and we'll talk. And usually, if it's a convenient time for them to talk, I'm in the house, within 2 or 3 minutes. So that really hasn't changed. But on the other part of that, the other side of the coin is I have, on the pre-foreclosures, I'm starting to wonder, talking about the cheese being moved, I'm starting to wonder if people are thinking the government's going to bail them out, and so they don't have that time, that crunch to take action, because they think, hey, the government's just passed this $2 trillion bill. We're not going to have to pay our mortgage. We're going to be safe. So that's something that's kind of new and up in the air. So I can't give you an answer on that because it's too early to tell.
I got a different take on that whenever you get through with it.
Okay. And then the other thing is I've got 2 appointments today to meet 2 other sellers. So the phone's still ringing and people are still doing business. So the other part of it is what I'm doing a little bit differently now. I'm probably being a little bit more cautious on the deals I take down. They're going to be much more secure. They're going to be really good properties that I have multiple exit strategies, either rent, flip, rehab, and do some type of lease option, something like that. So that's kind of where the cheese is moving a little bit on my end. So you got any other thing?
Joe?
All right,
You had,
so
you had
I
something, you
did.
had something about what Carrie said?
Yeah, so I did not go door knocking the pre-foreclosures this month. I did it out of two reasons. One, out of respect for other folks, just in case. And then also, like I said, I've got a wife that's 32 weeks pregnant, which means we're gonna have a baby in 8 weeks or less. Because actually, it'll probably be less. All my other ones came 2 weeks early, and I just didn't want to bring something home just in case. But that was part of why we didn't do it. The other reason was is that foreclosures had to stay on them this month, which means those people that most of the time are pretty motivated now have got some wiggle room. Now we did do something different to contact them, so we went and we took our list out of the paper like we normally do, and we went and made a letter for them and handwritten it and hand addressed the envelopes and sent those out to them. And we did that to be able to get contact with them to see if we can get to them. So now we've got 2 months to play with them. Most of the time, the reason why we go and door knock the pre-foreclosures is because it's time sensitive. Plus, you can get out there and you've got no competition with it because, like Carrie said, next to nobody door knocks. But by doing it this way, we'll probably be able to gain access with them, still get that little bit of bridge just in case there is or is not any kind of infection that we have to worry about, and hopefully be able to take them down. But I don't know if what Carrie said about people wondering if the government's going to bail them out, that may be a very, very big thing. But I think also they may not be as motivated to talk to you right now because they know, hey, I just got saved another month, and they're wondering what's going on as well. So that was my take on that.
So did the foreclosures, are they put off now in Georgia?
Yes.
Is it nationwide?
I don't know if it's nationwide. I know it is in Georgia though. And
Okay.
also we have a stay of evictions as well, which I had a friend that he had a tenant that was getting behind, and he was going through a personal circumstance, and he was like, man, as long as I'm getting enough to pay the mortgage right now, we're good to go. And he let it snowball out, and he got fed up, and he's like, okay, it's time to do it. And they put a stay of eviction, and now he can't even evict them. And so it was like, rah, rah.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later about, what we're doing as landlords when a tenant doesn't pay or can't pay.
Yeah.
And as far as in my case, the way the coronavirus, well, let me ask you first, Larissa, because again, you go to every real estate investor meeting anywhere. So how has this affected your business?
So everything is canceled for the last 2 weeks, I would say. Everything's been canceled. It happened kind of quickly in that, it seemed like I was going to be speaking at actually two different meetings on the same day. And like 3 days before both, they were canceled. And then before you know it was phone call after phone call, just, everything's going to be canceled for right now or postponed. Of course, I would have been this coming weekend at Dykes' self-directed IRAs class with Dykes and Pete. So, that was canceled. It's really, especially for, getting out there and networking, there's just not good ways to network right now. And then our new sort of new accounts call line has definitely slowed. A lot of times when I still talk to people every single day. And of course, people are waiting on the market. I mean, if they were going to be rolling funds over from an old 401k, for example, they have to wait now because they want to see what's going to happen. But I'm still seeing people move forward. They are, ready to go. They've been ready to go. So, but it definitely has affected the number of people who are ready to go right now. And networking, that's a big part of my business, and that's all on hold. So once, we're able to do that networking again, I'm sure things will change. But right now, things have slowed.
Okay. And so again, you're working out of your house. And here's something that's funny or interesting. I had to go to Office Depot yesterday in Calhoun, Georgia, where Joey lives. And I went in and I asked, 'cause I had to get some legal pads, and I said, how's business been doing? What's going on? And my thought was because the sales were so down and, there was so much time on their hand, they were probably been reorganizing the store and, all the tasks that they've been putting off because they were always busy, fixing copiers and getting everything, this gave them time to get everything cleaned up. And they said, no, they've been busier than ever. So sales 2 weeks ago were up like she said 12 or 13%. Then last week sales were up like 23 or 24, 25%. And I looked at her because that really dumbfounded me. I didn't expect her to say that. But she
Homeschool
said, I
Bill.
said, what's selling? And she said, office equipment. She said, home office stuff, desk, chairs, printers, screens, monitors, you name it, copy paper, ink, all the things you would associate with a home office. She said the sales are just going sky high. And that's one of the reasons why I think there's going to be an opportunity coming where people are going to be more likely to work out of their home because they can still get the work done. And it's kind of a different format that's coming. So you heard Carrie say
I agree.
earlier, the cheese has moved. And what he's referring to is there's a book called Who Moved My Cheese? Been out for a long time. And if you haven't read it, you should read it. If you read it before, read it again, because it talks, right now, instead of where the cheese used to be 4 weeks ago, it's not there anymore. So we're going to be entering a different kind of market. The cheese has moved. And if you keep going back to where the cheese was, you're going to go hungry because there's no cheese there. You need to go to where the business is going to be, and it's not where it was.
I want to add to what I mentioned too, because transactions actually at the office have not slowed. So of course I'm not at the office, but I'm still really, a part of everything that's going on at the office. And we're still doing transactions just as we always did. So people that have always self-directed are continuing to do so. The only thing that I've seen a little tiny bit different is a few more people are buying precious metals than say last week or the week before.
Yeah. So they're still using their self-directs to do that.
Yep.
And for Kim and me, the thing that changed was normally we head out in our motorhome. We live in a motorhome now. We sold our horse ranch back in 2018. And usually we head out at the end of March and we spend all the way through November traveling around the country. And as we go, we teach at different RIAs, usually one RIA a month. And all of a sudden, everything I had coming up all the way through June either got moved to 2021 or got moved to the fall. And I looked at Kim, I said, well, we can go travel because, I mean, we're done. No one wants us in, everything's closed down. There's no meetings. And I thought we had a big break coming up, which would have been nice actually. But all of a sudden the RIAs changed, business changed, and they started using Zoom and go to webinar. And the problem is they didn't have the content because in a lot of RIAs, you don't have the experienced investors who've been through a downturn. And RIAs right now, most investors are wholesalers and they started after 2012. And so what the RIAs need are content. So all of a sudden my phone's ringing off the hook saying, hey, can you give us some content? Can we interview you? Can we talk about what's going on in this market? And we didn't see that coming. So all of a sudden in the last, that's why Larissa's here. She's walked me through how to use GoToWebinar, and we're using video cameras. And this is a big change for us too. So, with change, you can't just look at it and throw your hands up and say, oh, this is awful. You got to look for the good in it. And there's going to be things you can do that will improve your business. And it's always about helping people. So when there's chaos, people need help. And your job is to go find those people and provide a service, provide help, provide answers. And that's what all three of us are doing.
I got to
So
tell you
Carrie,
something
yeah,
right now. This is like total aside. I was talking to one of my buddies that, I got a lot of outside the box what box thinkers.
outside
And
the box. Did you really say that?
I did,
One of
and I
my
said,
best friends in the world, and you said what?
well, he's not part of us, but anyway, he lives in Chicago, and Chicago's on lockdown right now. And he was like, well, shoot, if I'm gonna be on lockdown, I better go somewhere where it's nice. So he took his entire family down to Florida. They flew from Chicago down to Florida. He's got a family of 5, the entire family, $200. And he said, while
Wow.
we were on the plane, there was 2 people other than our group on the plane. He said, in the concourse and everything. He's like, we didn't touch anything. He said, that was cool. Then he got a Verbo down in wherever he is in Florida. I think it's Orlando. It was
Explain what a Verbo is.
it's a short-term rental. So Verbo's one of them. HomeAway's
Vacation
another
rental.
one.
It's a vacation rental.
Rental.
Furnished property.
Furnished property, normally on a weekly rate. So he contacted a person that had a Verbo down there. A 7-bedroom house normally rents for $2,500 a week, and he got it discounted for $1,400 for the week. Then
Wow.
they were like, well, we're going to be on lockdown even longer. How much would you take for the rest of the month? And they said, can you do $900 more? And he said, I believe I can. So he got the entire month for less, a 7-bedroom house with a pool. They got the kids over there having all kinds of fun, not in Chicago where it's snowing, down there where they can actually get in the pool for less than 1 week normally. So that is a thing about cheese moving that's very interesting. So that being
Yeah.
said, if you feel up to traveling, right now might not be a bad idea to check some things out.
Yeah, that's why Kim and I were excited about getting out there because everything's cheap. I mean, really cheap. Carrie, what steps are you taking right now to shore up your business to make sure everything is good? What are you doing?
Basically, on the acquisition side, we're making sure the deals are really strong. So if there is a decrease in the equity, that will be safe. That's for anything going new. I just bought a house 3 weeks ago that we were going to do a lease option on it so we'd get the long-term capital gains. We have decided to change that strategy and just do a straight sale. So I've listed it with an agent because I think now's a good time to have cash on hand.
Yep.
So not only just for the obvious reasons of being able to pay bills, but also when opportunities are available, you have something to strike with. So I think I think with every downturn, there's a new door opens for opportunities, and for the savvy investor, I think you know they're going to be able to do okay. As far, but going back to the shoring up the business, I think just tightening down on the budget, not spending money that we're used to spending. So we're like I said, just
What are
not
some of the things you're tightening?
well, obviously not going out to eat every night, so we're cooking at home. Tanya hates it, but yeah, um, things like that. And we're not spending the money that we would normally spend on any type of you know luxuries. And it's like the movie theaters are down. There's so much thing, but I'm not saying stop living too, because like what Joey was saying, we were going to go to the beach this week, but they shut the beach down, so there was no sense driving down there. Um, but just being
They shut
cautious.
the beach down?
They shut the beach down. Yeah,
Where?
Panama
All over.
City, all
All
over
over.
Florida.
There,
They keep the
yeah,
spring breakers.
I know all of our beaches here locally are closed.
I just talked to another friend of mine here in Cartersville. Sorry to jump in on you, Carrie, but he had a bunch. He had like 100, 150 VRBO condos in Panama City. Now he got out about 2 years ago when the market got white hot. He's like, it's time to leave. So he harvested his crop, as they say. So in spring you plant, summer it grows, in the fall you harvest. But if you don't harvest, then it just dies in the field. So he did harvest. He went, this is good enough. So he sold off a number of his condos and he sold off his VRBO business. But he stayed in contact with those condos. And right now, those people are hurting because they overpaid for condos. Too many got built. There's too many VRBOs. And because people pay too much, their mortgage payments are huge. And now there's nobody down there because I didn't even know the beach is closed, but I know the VRBO business slowed way down. And so now you're going to have a big section of the market and a lot of condos in Panama City go on sale. And I'm sure that's going to happen other places where VRBO has been very hot. But all of a sudden, you miss 2 or 3 mortgage payments. And that's where we see when the government steps in and says you don't have to make the payment. We'll see what happens then. I'm sorry, Carrie, I didn't mean to interrupt. Sure, I
No,
did.
that's
I actually
fine.
didn't mean to interrupt.
I wouldn't have it any other way, Bill. But no, it's the other thing is we're making sure all of our rentals have we've done the repair. We've always been really quick to jump on major things, but there's always things like this piece of trim is coming off, things that we've put off. We're making sure that we're taking care of these issues because we want to keep our tenants in place. We want to make sure they're happy with us, which fortunately for us, we have nice rentals and our tenants usually stay, oh my gosh, 5, 6 years on average. So it's very little turnover. So we're just making sure that they still want to stay. But other than that, I mean, and then making sure we're opening our eyes to the new um,
Technology
opportunities.
is the word,
Well,
Carrie, is the word technology?
you got to have internet service in the cow field for that to work for me. But no, but just make sure that you're aware. Like we were talking about the cheese move. There's going to be new opportunities that arise, and you just need to, you got to tighten up your spending, but at the same time, you've got to be prepared to take action. So that's what we're doing to shore up our business right now.
And I think that's a really important message too, Carrie, because and that's what I want people to get out of what we're doing right now. So that when you hear us having this conversation, you've yet to hear, oh, woe is me, doom and gloom, we're all going to die. You know, we're all looking, we're shoring up, but we're also looking and saying, okay, where can we go help people? Because, you know, the more people you help, the more opportunities you find. Um, so let that be a really important lesson you're taking from what you're hearing today. Joe,
All right,
what
so
are you doing to shore up your business?
there's a book called Extreme Ownership. It's a book about how SEALs lead on the battlefield, and it comes back and teaches you about different kinds of lessons that you should use in your business life and life in general. And one of
Is that by
the,
Jocko? Did Jocko write that
yeah,
one?
Jocko Willing and Leif Babbitt are the two that wrote that. Great book. If you've
Yeah,
never
great
read it,
book.
go read it. I have listened to it 8 times, and I'm not kidding. I've listened to it 8 times, and every single time I get something extra out of it, and I get something more out of it. It's just that good. But one of the things they talk about in it is that there should be something inside of you that's default aggressive. And in our time right now, default aggressive becomes two faces. We got to have a aggressive defense, and we got to have an aggressive offense. So on our defense side, one of the things that we're doing is we want to go out and talk to all of our tenants. I got tenants that are freaking out right now. I've got tenants that are scared to death because they don't know what's going on and they're worried they're going to get kicked out. And what we did to begin with was we went and we listed all of our tenants out, and then we went and put what their profession was beside it. And that kind of gave us a list of things to be able to look at. So we've got, I've got police officers that are tenants. They're probably not going to shut down prisons because of the coronavirus. So we're like, okay, they're probably pretty good. I've got teachers. Teachers are still getting paid right now, so they're pretty good. I've got one that's a hairdresser. I'm like, she may be in trouble. I've got some self-employed people. I didn't know how they would do. I've got a truck driver. He will probably be okay as long as trucks will continue to run. So he's probably going to be okay. I've got a nurse, and I was like, she's probably going to be okay. But what we did was is we got out in front of this and said, hey, you know what? I want to meet with y'all and talk with you and see how things are going. I just want to get with you and see how you're doing. But I don't want to get face to face with you like we normally do, because what if I got something? What if you got something? I want to make sure that they feel good. So what we did instead was is we set up a bunch of Zoom calls with them. And if y'all don't know what Zoom is a video chat platform that you can send out. It's free for you to sign up for. It's free for you to be able to use. It works great on your cell phone. So Kerry could be looking at us right now if he knew how to use a cell phone. But I've got elderly people that are able to download this thing and lickety split. I'm looking at them talking, and it worked really good. And so what we were able to do was I just called up and said, hey, I just wanted to check on y'all, see how you're doing. Oh man, we're doing good, and really cool. How's work going? Oh man, right now I've got mill workers. I was worried about the mill workers. We've got tents outside of the plant. They're checking our temperatures, making sure everything's good. And if we're good, we're going to keep working. So we're great. I had some people that I was worried about that when I called them, they're like, man, we got our taxes in. I got 5 months worth of living saved up. We are great. So I was able to go through, and right now I've got about a 60% response rate on our tenants that we've already done Zoom calls with. We sent out another when I solicited them for our Zoom call, I made a video and used another technology called BombBomb, sent the BombBomb video out to talk to them and said, hey, we got all kinds of uncertain times right now. I just want to get with you and be able to talk with you and see how you're doing. Let's set up a time to be able to talk, and that way, we can see how things are going. And what's cool about BombBomb is BombBomb has tracking in it. So when you send the video out, you can see when your tenants opened up the email. So,
Wow.
yes. And I mean, it doesn't just work with with just the BombBombs. You can set it up to see anytime you send an email, did somebody open it up? And so that's really, really cool. That becomes beneficial for us. Like when if we send a pay or quit letter, we send them via text and email, and we can see when they opened it up using BombBomb. So check into that if you've never heard of it. It's got a subscription associated with it. It's well worth it. But anyway, out of our 60%, we got mostly favorable results. We've only had one or two people that was worried. One of them happened to be the hairdresser. She's been out of work for 2 weeks, and they're not going to open up her thing again until mid-April, and she's a little scared. I'm actually going to go sit down with her on the front porch so that we've got distance between each other to talk and see how we can get through this together. But the whole point of this was to get with them to let them know we can work through this as a team, and that way they feel validated. They get rid of the fears that may or may not be there, and let them know that I feel like what we did was we were able to recruit them as our allies versus turning it into an adversarial relationship where, oh, you mean to tell me that we might not have to pay our rent for the next 2 months? Well, I'll show you, something like that, as opposed to, hey, let's work through this together. So now we're on the same team trying to get through this. So that was on the rental side of it. We've got one, two, three, four. We got 4 flips right now that are open. 3 of them are under contract. One of them was under contract prior to coronavirus coming out, but it's a VA loan. Something that's interesting about that is that they are not going very fast with trying to process this thing. Matter of fact, they're going kind of slow, and it's frustrating. The next one that we had is a USDA loan. Once again, that's a government insured loan. We were worried about what could possibly go on if everybody's having to work from home, and what kinds of things were going to be happening with loan processing associated with government loans if they shut that down. And so one of the things that we did to try to push this thing through is we had that house is on Newtown. Newtown had an offer on it, and then it had a backup offer on it. Now, I haven't seen that in a long time. And what was interesting about that is I think people are scared that interest rates may be about to go up. So all that stuff that they were trying to get deals, people are like, I just want to get a house. So I got a full price backup offer on the offer that we had. That being said, when we got the inspection list to come through, I went ahead and did some stuff that I wouldn't normally do, because right now, getting the deal done before anything could go wrong is very, very important to me. And so I'm having to evaluate what's going on with properties to make sure that we get it done. The third one was a very interesting one. It's on Norval. Norval got 3 offers on it, and all of them were above list price. And one of them was quite a bit above list price. Very low closing cost on all of them. So they're out there throwing their best offers out, throwing the best thing they can do. And what we did too on them was 2 of the offers were conventional. The other one was a FHA loan. So the FHA loan one got pushed to the side, and we evaluated the 2 conventional ones once again, because we're like, how much are we going to see in a delayed closing time associated with government having to move from here to being working remotely? What kind of lag time is that going to do with us? Because we want to get these things done just in case something does happen. So by the way, I'm not a doomsday person. I don't think everything's about to go kaboosh, but still I like to hope for the best and plan for the worst type deal. So I'd rather get these things gone while people are excited and want to get them gone than sit here and just kind of be lackadaisical about it. So that's something.
Smart.
The last thing that we've been doing is, like Carrie talked about, is cutting expenses. Now, I run an office. It isn't just me and Ashley anymore. We've got staff. So I got Mary Beth, and I got Lucas, and I got Mom. And so we have overhead that we do have to take into consideration. We're looking at everything that we've got coming in versus everything we got going out. And we're looking, how can we cut those expenses? We're looking at subscriptions. Do we have subscriptions that, we've been letting just sit there run, but do we really need those subscriptions right now? Cutting those things off. We went down to Monday, Wednesday, Friday on hours just in case in the interim. So we talked to everybody, and they were cool with that for a couple of reasons. One, that keeps them from having to get out into the world as much. So Mary Beth's mom is elderly and also has some lung issues, and so she's one of the people that may be at risk. So by her not having to come into the office every day is actually beneficial, because that takes her risk factor down. So that's a cool thing. And then the next thing that we're doing to revamp our bit or to take care of our business is we're looking at different ways to be able to market that is not as face to face as normal. So we're like I said, we sent out those mailings instead of going out and door knocking. We'll be putting up Facebook stuff and things like that, videos and things like that. We got to overcome ways to where with people doing social distancing, whatever. Isn't it funny how we come up with these words? I mean, like, what do they call that stuff? Intermittent fasting. When I was a kid, you call that missing breakfast. So why do we got to come up with these words? But so you can just say stay home. Why we got to do social distancing? But anyway, so folks are social distancing, but we still need to get out there and get to them. So how do we do that? It's going to have to be with, we can do it by going over and door knocking. Sure, bet. I think that will be a avenue most people don't use anyway, and so we will continue to do that. But the other thing is that more people are going to be at home in front of their computer. So we can hit them with being at home in front of their computer with Facebook messages and things like that. So those are some things that we're evaluating and seeing what we can do.
Okay. And this is going to be more of like a round robin discussion. What problems do you see coming over the next 3 weeks? Larissa, why don't you kick us off on that one? What do you see coming the next 3 weeks?
You know,
Could be
honestly,
6
for
weeks. I mean,
me,
just say, go ahead.
so honestly, for me, I think the hardest part is I just don't know. I don't know what it's going to be in the future. You know, at this point, it's just, I've honestly been thinking a lot about it. It will be so strange to me to go back to business as usual right now, because I don't know if it's next week or 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now. And, you know, everybody that is in the same boat as all of us and working from home and changing the way that they deal with things. I mean, kind of the sentiment that I see based on all the people that I've spoken to in the last week is that we're all in this together. You know, whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but, you know, we're all kind of making adjustments together, but I just don't know what to expect, I guess. And also, I just wanted to,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to, you know, kind of point out something that I thought was really awesome that Joey said. It didn't seem to even occur to him to call his tenants. It was important to him to have a face-to-face, even if it was through Zoom. And I just think that's awesome, because you said it really well that you were looking to be an ally to them, you know, through this hard time. And I'm sure that is really going to continue to keep your relationship firm with them, because, you know, I learned from Bill last year that when you're working with somebody on a deal, or, you know, whether it be your tenants, to always get face to face, and that changes really the dynamic of the relationship completely.
And that's one of the things I think all four of us, go ahead.
I can't take credit for it. Me and Bill got over in a parking lot and we had to do social distancing because, you know, don't want to get Bill sick. Plus he smells funny. But that was one of the things that he's like, have you got to your tenants yet? And I was like, dude, I've been working on this I need to get to my tenants. So I was busy working on a rehab. That stopped and we got over and got to the tenants immediately. So that's what I was talking about. Default aggressive. Get in there. Don't just sit there and kind of talk about it. Get it done now. Also, we've been talking to our lenders as well. So, and I'm not calling up saying, hey, you know, what do y'all think, is the world going to end type deal? I've called my lenders up and all I've said is, I want to check on you, see how you're doing. One of them I called up that
yesterday.
So you know about this?
Okay. Yeah. I know about this. He kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. The lender we're talking about, he kept waiting for the shoe to drop.
And I said,
he said, you just want to talk to me to see how things are going. And he said, that's not the call I was expecting. So you kind of threw him off base, but he was real happy with the call.
Is it okay for me to say who it is, or does it matter?
No, don't say it.
Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to check on them, and because, you know, they've got to be freaking out. And when I called this particular lender, I was like, hey, I just want to call and check on you. He's like, I bet, you know, and he heard it in his voice. I was like, no, I'm serious. I just want to see how you're doing. It was a quick 10-minute phone call top, but I wanted them to know that life is still going on. We're still good. We're friends. We're team. We're going to do whatever we got to do. And I just want to make sure you're okay. Let me know if I can do anything for you. And that has seriously been the conversation that I've had with both lenders and tenants. Another lender that I called yesterday, whenever I was telling her, hey, you know, I've got a couple of deals with her right now and 3 of them are under contract. We're good. But hey, that's all great and everything. How are you doing personally? So we can't lose that. We can't get in such a go-go mode that we forget we got to get that personal touch with our business, because our business is in housing, but it has nothing to do with we have a people business. The bricks and sticks just happen to be where the people live. But if you don't get with the people, you don't get anything done. We got a saying in our business called people. It says houses don't matter, people matter. And so that's something to take into consideration. And Bill's going to point something out.
Yeah, I was going to point something out, which was on the two lenders you talked to yesterday, they both had their investment account with Advanta with Larissa. These are things that I know. I just let you know that. How's that for a plug?
I didn't want you to say who it was.
Yeah, I can't say that. And one of the things I want is something that I think Joe said earlier, or maybe Carrie said it. The four of us, and that's what everybody should know. The four of us are very good at face to face. So with Larissa, what stood her out to me, I've known her maybe for 7 or 8 years. And when I'm down in St. Pete, going to Peace McDonald's and the Exchanger meeting down there and the different meetings I go to, I always see Larissa there all the time. So there's other people who are custodians that would come in, they're there for a short time and they disappear, then someone else and they disappear. Larissa's there every single time. She shows up and she doesn't like hand out flyers and stuff. She's there. She's talking to you. You see her face to face. Carrie is phenomenal at the door. He's phenomenal talking to people. So is Joe. So the thing that the four of us have in common is we're touchy, feely people. Not in a weird way. Not like Derek Dombeck, another buddy of mine. But anyway, we want to sit there and we care. And communication is, they say it's like 80% nonverbal. Well, you got to see how someone says. You got to hear the voice inflection, and it's so important to be face to face. Next question I had was, it's the way I was looking at what's coming. I think it's a matter of time, a couple of weeks, that people realize that with the coronavirus, it's the damn flu. It's the damn flu.
I may have had
Every
it, y'all.
year,
Seriously, I may
huh?
have already had it. Oh, we got sick about
Wait.
4
I
weeks
stood
ago.
next to you in a whoa. I stood next to you in a parking lot, and now you're telling me you may have had it?
Dude,
What the hell's wrong with you?
it was 4 weeks ago, or it was 4 weeks ago since I've been over it. And we got my daughter got it first, then my son got it, then I got it, and then Ashley got it. And the kids got over it pretty quick. They were over it in like 4 or 5 days. Me and Ashley were like 8 to 10 days into it. The worst sore throat I've ever had in my entire life. I mean, like it was horrible. We had this gnast that was just right here, and you're coughing up stuff the entire time. It took your energy out of you, and you just felt bad. But the only thing that we didn't have was we didn't have a fever that we know of. But they keep talking about 80% of the country is going to get it, but most of that 80% is going to be a mild case, and it'll just feel bad. And it's the other 20% that they're worried about that will get to it. And when I'm reading about the mild cases of it, I may have had it. And is it does it suck? Yeah, but it's seriously, I've had sinus infections that are exactly the same. So it's not like, oh my gosh, we got the bubonic plague or Ebola or anything like that, and you're gonna start bleeding out of your eyeballs or anything. It's if I had it, then it was a sickness that lasted for a little while, and it's not that bad.
Well, I think that's what people are going to realize is this is the flu. It's the flu. Every year we call it the cold and flu season because it's wintertime, and then summertime comes and the cold and flu season pass. Now, I have a problem where I had something called a pulmonary embolism back in 2017, but 30% of my lungs are dead. So I'm one of those people that are susceptible. So I'm, 35 pounds overweight. I'm 60 years old, and I have this lung thing. So do you quarantine the rest of the country because I may catch the disease, or does the person who's got the problems, should they quarantine themselves from society and let society get on with it? And I think we're going to figure that out pretty quick. You just start looking and saying, the mortality rate as they test more and more people have had it, but at the same time, the percentage of people who die from it go down less and less. Then you look at the people who are dying and say there was a problem there already. They were already weakened by something. And just like a heavy rainstorm, if you get a heavy winds to come through, the weak trees will fall over. It's part of nature. I'm not trying to be cold or anything because I'm in that group of weak trees. But that's just kind of what happens. And Carrie, you've been way too quiet for way too long. I want you part of this conversation.
Well, I can't butt in with you and Joey. So
That's never stopped you before.
Yeah, that never is. You were on the call. We were on a call yesterday, which brought this idea, and you wouldn't shut up.
I know, right? I talked too much yesterday. No, I'm just listening. I mean, everything is great points, but talking about what's
That's
coming.
because of the three smartest people are talking.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Hey, I am the
Anyway,
smartest person in this room right now.
anyway, so I'm hoping this thing's gonna blow over. I'm trying to be optimistic, and think like you said, as the weather warms up, and it's probably gonna take a couple of weeks to if people will stay away from each other, as far as like going into groups and things like that. I think we're going to come out of this all right. Now, there are going to be some trickle down effects. There's definitely going to be some domino effects because there's going to be a lot of people that have no savings or anything like that. They're going to struggle. Um, the entertainment, restaurant type people, it's
Hmm.
going to take them a minute to get back on their feet because, I got a friend of mine who owns a restaurant and he's worried about making payroll. And he said, it's hard to pay people when, we're not getting customers because nobody wants to have fine dining, in a to go bag. And with that being said, he goes, then I worry about, well, if my staff they have to take care of their families. So if they go and get other employment, he goes, I'm gonna have to basically start training people all over again. So that part of it's going to be sad. And I think that's what we're going to have to be faced with. And again, dealing with people that aren't going to be able to pay rent. Um, it kind of reminds me a little bit about like 9/11 when 9/11 happened and everybody kind of went into shutdown mode. Like, one of the things I remembered was gas. You used to could pump your gas and then go pay for it. And then after 9/11, you had to start prepaying for your gas at the pump. And I think there's going to be a lot of that. I think there's going to be a lot of that. It's like, well, you're going to have to prove to me that, you can afford this and it's not going to be so much of a handshake deal anymore. And that's kind of tragic, but hopefully it won't last too long and it won't be too severe. And, like
one of
Joey
these
says,
years, maybe.
yeah,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Kerry.
No, I was just going
Oh,
to say, just we're just going to have to be, we're definitely going to have to be more open-minded of people's situations. We've still got to protect our house, but at the same time, if we can help people and give a lend in hand, whether it be through advice or a barter system, or because I don't know if people's going to have this disposable income that we once did um, for a while. Again, I'm looking at this thing. Hopefully, we're going to be done with this thing in 60 days. Hopefully, as the weather warms up, we're just going to have to help people out, and we're just going to have to think more open-minded of how we're going to get things accomplished. Okay, perfect example. You got a house that needs fixing. Well, barter with somebody. It's like, if you can fix this, I'll give you this, versus just writing a big check. So there's going to be a lot of different ways that business is going to change, but at the same time, I think it's still, you know, we're going to be on track.
I'm like you, Kerry, and I think Joey's the same way. I'm seeing this as a much shorter hiccup. So 4 weeks ago, the economy was just strong as it could be. The stock market was way up, business was doing great, everything's on fire, everybody's hiring. You couldn't get employees in. It was just rocking and rolling. Everything was great. So all of a sudden, you have a virus. Now that's what made this whole downturn so unusual. Is a bug that comes in. And then people are going to figure out it's just the virus, it's just the flu. And for some people it's really tragic, like for me, and for other people it's like with Joe, he's got a sore throat, he's in bed for a while, and then he's back up and going back to work. So there's that, but I think we're going to come out of this much faster than what a lot of people think. And but I got to tell you, I got friends of mine who've been investing a lot longer than I have. So Dyke Spotiford, Pete Fortunato, uh, David
Daytona.
Tilney, Vina Jones. So some of these people that are they're seeing a year to 2 years recovery. And I was really surprised by that. Um, again, I see that we were doing great. You had the virus, and then Americans bounce back pretty quick. So if you have a hurricane come ashore and it wipes everything out, it's amazing. Humans are like ants. We come back, you stomp on an ant mound, you come back out the next day, and there's the ant mound. And humans kind of do the same thing. It doesn't matter what happened, a hurricane or a tsunami or a tornadoes or fires or whatever it is. We get back in there and we start rebuilding and get back to work again. It's just what we do by nature. And I think that's going to happen, but who's to say? And the other thing, another point I had in my head was Kim and I went through both the dot-com downturn of 2000, and then we went through the Great Recession, 2007, 2008. And we learned, I was journaling, and if you're not journaling, you should journal. I've been doing journals since I was 19, consistently. And I got to tell you, the journals I did my first 10 years, I go back and read them, and I'm sick to my stomach. And I tell people all the time, I want to burn them because I'm worried that someone like Joe or Carrie or Larissa will get their hands on them and go, what an idiot this guy is. And I was an idiot
All
back
we have to
then.
do is ask Kim. That's all we have to do.
We
But
don't need
anyway,
the book to tell us that. So
well, anyway, so I was journaling heavy in 7, 8, and 9, and I was giving myself directions that if I had more money in the bank, this is what I would be doing. And if I had more free and clear properties, this is what I'd be doing. So I was giving myself notes and instructions for, when the next downturn came, which this is it, be ready for this. And I got to tell you, we're heading into this downturn, and I took the lessons and learned them well. So when we went in 2012 and made the turn and things got good, over that time, Kim and I, we paid off our properties and we built a war chest of money. And we took Dave Ramsey's course twice, financial freedom principles, and learned to make, we went on rice and beans and beans and rice, and it wasn't pleasant. And I had friends of mine that were going on these vacations and buying new cars and doing lots of great things. And Kim and I, we really stuck to our row. We kept holding that row, which was get free and clear, get free and clear. When we have extra money, pay off the next mortgage. And we did that. And you should be journaling right now and what you're seeing, because we will have another downturn after this one. And it's always caused by something you don't see coming. I talked about Tavina about this yesterday, and it was a good point she made. You gotta, this was caused by a virus. The last one was caused by banks making stupid loans to stupid people, everybody being greedy. Then in the dot-com boom, there was greed again that drove up the cost of the price of stocks, and everybody was living on that. And you can go back to 1985. And in 1985, the problem you had was the savings and loan collapsed. So there's a different cause to each downturn, but there is a downturn and values come down and tenants, whatever they do. So you got to be aware, be careful, and be mindful, but make notes to yourself. And when you come to the next downturn, be ready. But two of the most important things to me were free and clear properties and a war chest. So if the mortgage I don't have a mortgage to pay, and my tenant doesn't pay me, I'm still okay because most of my tenants will pay. So be
Hey, Bill,
mindful of that. Yeah.
you say that about the war chest quite a bit. So this is hopefully to help folks that have never been through a downturn before. Tell them more about what a war chest is to you and what somebody can do for the next downturn to be able to pay attention to that.
Well, in the beginning, it was, we have a month worth of money to live on? Or can we be out of work for 30 days and still have money in the bank and pay every bill? And then it became, can we have 3 months in the bank? And so if we don't, can we pay all the mortgage payments, the property taxes, the insurance, replace a roof, have a property go vacant, whatever happens, do we have money for 3 months to survive that? And then it became a year's worth of money. So now we have more than a year's worth of money sitting cash. And so if no one pays me, because we have a lot of notes, we have our rental properties, we have options, we have a mobile home park, but if nobody pays me, can we still get by? And the answer is yes. But in 2007, the answer was no, not a chance. We did have a couple months savings, but that was it. And we blew through that, by the way. We got down to like bare bones in 7 and 8 and 9. And Kim and I were on the defensive up until beginning of 2010. And we finally got our legs under us and got confidence. And we started moving forward and we switched to offense and done well. But I'm surprised by the number of people, as well as the economy has done since 2012, and particularly since Trump came in and the market turned around. I'm surprised by the number of people who have no money in savings. So what have they been doing with their money? And they've been living on it. And that's bad management of money. So that's war chest.
What's Jeff's last name?
Chahusky.
Say it one more time.
Chahusky.
I cannot ever get that because what it's spelled, it didn't come out the way that it's spelled. I love Jeff.
No. He's Polish.
He's Polish.
Yeah, and he has a pronunciation with lots of C's and lots of I's, and I'm dyslexic. And every time I go to spell his name, I look at Kim and go, Kim, how do you? I have another last name for Jeff, but again, Larissa's here, and I won't say what I call Jeff.
Well, we were at a mastermind one time with Jeff, and Jeff said that something that he thought, and I'd never heard anybody say this before, was that the next downturn will be emotionally based. And I took note of that because I was like, emotional based. And he said, I think people will get scared. And so there will be some kind of something that happens. And then whatever is the effects of that will be based more off of fear than it will be whatever the circumstance was. And when this jumped in and we started looking at this is the flu. It does have some mortality rate associated with it, but this is the flu. Could this be something like that? And so I wonder if something that we will see as things progress are the deals that we make, are they going to be based off of folks being scared and being irrational due to the sky is falling associated with this, as opposed to real, you betcha, financial situations? And so I wonder if we do need to prepare ourselves in our minds when we're out going and talking to sellers, is do we need to be thinking about what are we going to see as far as emotions are concerned, and using empathy as opposed to sympathy to be able to get deals done, which we do anyway. That's being a problem solver. But that I've been thinking about that a lot here lately. I need to call Jeff up and tell him thank you for that. But that was something that I was thinking about maybe coming up very soon.
Oh, I told Jeff to say that, so you can just thank me.
Yeah.
Not really. That's a smart guy, so I always try to take credit for anything he says. Hey, Carrie,
Yeah.
what do you think is scaring homeowners right now?
Fear of paying their bills. I really truly think that, like Joey said, the emotions of, I think they're worried about not having the income to take care of their family and take care of their overhead. I think that's the biggest. I mean, if I were a civilian, that would be what I'd be worried about. How am I going to afford the roof over my head and food on the table?
Okay,
Can you
so
hear me?
that said, yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay.
So that said, Carrie, this is for all of us. How do we help people conquer their fears, settle the fear, to make them feel better? What do we do as investors? What can we do?
We have to
Listen?
coach them.
Oh, okay, Carrie.
I was just going to say, we got to coach them. Just let them know it's like, hey, you're going to get through this. I mean, think about 9/11, the downturn of, the market crash in 2007, 2008. I mean, I lived through all this stuff, and it just, nothing stopped us yet. It's a slowdown. It's a bump in the road, but, and you got to let them know that it's going to be okay. Your material things aren't the most important thing in the world. It's more about health and security of your family, and make sure they're okay. Everything else can be replaced. And I think you got to coach them and tell them that. And then you got to tell them to prioritize. The flat screens don't matter. The new car doesn't matter. It's having the roof over your head. Going back to the Dave Ramsey thing, is going back to having a roof over your head, food on the table, having a small emergency fund. So, and it's gonna be funny when this all blows over. You'll see a lot more people start saving money again, and then 5 years from now they'll blow it, because we're creatures of habit, and it's the same pattern over and over and over again. It's just, we got to get through this. But helping homeowners right now, it's like, tell them, it's like, listen, slow down on your spending. um Prioritize what bills have to be paid: roof, food, utilities, everything else. Obviously healthcare premiums, but everything else, kick it to the wayside for a moment, and just, get through this thing.
Well, Carrie, one thing I noticed about you is you made it through the last downturn, but you didn't age well. You didn't age well at all, my friend. You look a lot. You age like, for every year you age like 7 years, almost like dog years. I don't know what happened, because one day you were 30, next day you were like 90.
Bill, he's got dead eyes. What up, man?
Y'all are so jealous. Y'all are so jealous, it ain't even funny. But that's okay. Haters gotta hate.
Okay, so right now, as far as what's going through landlords' heads?
Oh, am I going to get paid? That's exactly what's going through landlords' heads.
And why is that? Why is that important?
Because if you're like me, that's how I eat. I eat off rental properties. I'm a landlord. I'm a landlord by trade, and so if my tenants don't pay me, I have to cut it back on my lifestyle, and I have to, and then a lot of people. Luckily for me, I have got a lot of, and I'll tell you the difference between me today versus 10 years ago during the downturn. The network that I have built, and y'all preach this over and over and over again, and nobody really takes it. The network I built is all private money. It is all my financial friends. We support each other. We help each other, not only through words of encouragement, but also it's like, hey, can you help me out on this? Can you help me out on that? Whether you're giving the help or you're asking for the help, the networking is probably your strongest tool in your toolbox. I would think. You look at all your
Great point.
creative deals and all that, but being able to have those financial friends to help you, who understand you, and then know that you're trustworthy and you're going to do what you say you're going to do. To me, that is the biggest, most powerful tool that you have.
You know,
Does that
when
make
you
sense?
say
I
that,
actually,
let me jump in here real fast. I got to tell you, because what you just said, if you look at all my friends, everybody that's really close to me, we all have great character. I don't talk about reputation because you can't control your reputation. So what someone thinks of me, I can't control that. But character, you can control. And everybody around me, when they tell you they're going to go do something, they're going to go do that thing. And character is so important. So make sure the people who are around you, again, great character. And the people who are giving you grief and don't do what they promise and are a pain in the butt, cut them out of your life because it's just not worth it. I'm sorry, Larissa, I cut you off.
yeah, no, I just wanted to say that I spoke to an investor who called me yesterday and kind of just really kind of said what Carrie was saying, is that he said, him and I are around the same age, and so we both, lived through the recession also. And he said, what's different between now and then is that I have more friends that I can go to and say, how do I fix this problem? I don't know. And he's like, so I'm feeling confident that even if problems arise, now I have people to go to. And it was just the point that Carrie was making. And, I think that's very true. It's the networking is important. So if you hadn't done it before, then you should add it when we can go back to networking. But even for me, I've been so fortunate working with Advana that I've been able to do so much networking, not just for the business, but to get to know people and to learn the business. And, that has really changed my outlook too. And just to have, this investor call me yesterday and say, I don't know what's going to happen, but, what I do know is that when I come to something that I don't know how to fix, I know who I can call.
Cool. Joe, I saw you taking notes.
Yeah, so as we're talking about things that we're seeing, I'm sitting there trying to figure out what kind of opportunities are going to be there for us. And so
And I want to jump in let me jump into this real fast because I want to be careful on how we see opportunities. So understand, we don't go after blood in the water. We're not there to take
no,
advantage of somebody. We're not there to do somebody in or dupe somebody out of their property. The one thing all my friends have in common is we're there to help. So the biggest lesson I ever learned about business in my life came when I was 19, and it was from Zig Ziglar, and it was, you'll get exactly what you want in life if you'll
if
first help someone get what they want. So it's always about someone else. And then when I got into investing when I was 35, I changed Zig's saying around to fit me and Kim, and that was, our job as real estate investors is not to buy, sell, or rent properties. Our job is to help people solve their real estate problems. And then when I hit 56, I changed that around again to make it simpler, which is, our job is to find people to help and problems to solve. A lot of times it involves real estate, but if I see someone on the side of the road that's broken down, I'm going to pull over. When I see something going on, I'm going to go help. That's our job. Anyway, so when I didn't mean to jump on you, Joe, but I just want to make
no,
sure we got that out.
that's great that you defined it that way. Because when I'm talking about opportunities, one of the, I'm not comfortable running a big wholesale company. And the reason why I'm not comfortable with that is, like Bill just said, oftentimes you're over there and you're just grinding on people trying to get the lowest price possible so that you can turn around and flip the contract. That's how you do big volume on that. And that's not my comfort level. I really do enjoy helping people and giving them a win-win situation, and us have a win-win situation, and you get more done. You get allies. I talked about allies earlier. Whenever you have a person that you buy a house from and they're your customer, when you make them your customer, I oftentimes get referrals from folks that I've done deals with in the past, and they will tell somebody about me. And that's, to me, in the Bible, it says a good name is preferable to choice riches. And so when having that good name to be able to get out there and get in front of people, it's a real good thing. So when I'm saying opportunities, I'm looking at supply and demand. So we've been having people talking about there's a supply and demand problem with housing. And what we just happened was everything was great, and people started getting into real estate that weren't in real estate previously. And they paid cash for houses and wanted to be landlords, and then it may not have turned out so great for them. So going back to what Carrie said about the greatest fear of landlords is getting paid, we may see a whole bunch of folks that all of a sudden no longer enjoy being landlords that would really like to have the problem solved of how the heck do I get rid of this? And so that can come in a couple of different forms where you can help them out. That can come in acquiring the management for them. By that, I mean, you could come in and master lease it from them. And if you need to learn how to do that, go check out David Tilney. You may be able to buy it from them outright. You will probably be able to structure some great owner carryback financing with these things too, because if these people were using these rental houses as their retirement, they may like to turn that thing into a note versus necessarily having a rental property now. And so take away the tenant and all that stuff from what they've got to deal with, and all they've got is a return coming off of this note. That's a win-win situation too. But there's going to be a lot of opportunities, I believe, with rental properties coming up for all the folks that thought it was a good idea. They're doing it because everybody in the neighborhood's doing it, or everybody at work's doing it, and things like that. There's going to be a supply there, and the demand is going to be, how the heck do I fix this? Because I just got behind and I can't evict and things like that. And so that is the opportunity there, is we've got a problem to solve, and how can we solve it?
And one of the things we talked about yesterday was someone asked me about what am I doing with my tenants. So again, I break our tenants down into two different categories. One is those who can't pay. So I had a call from one of our tenants, and she's a waitress, a very good waitress. She works hard. Her husband is also he's a cook, or he manages a restaurant. So they're two different restaurants. But anyway, both of them have been shut down. And they called me up, and of course I'm going to work with them because they've taken great care of the house. They've always paid on time. They've been easy to work with. I enjoy them. They're good neighbors to everybody. So David Tilney's 4 rules, take good care of the property, pay on time, be easy to work with, be a good neighbor. And they've been great. So of course I'm going to work with them and do whatever needs to be done, because the restaurants will open back up again. They will start making money again. Now, will I get the money back that they can't pay? No, I just don't see how I'm going to get that back blood out of turnip. But they will start paying again, and I like them in my home. So using long range glasses, this will help them, this helps us, and I don't want to have to go try to find someone else to go into this house, because they've taken good care of it. They're great to work with. But on the other hand, there's those who won't pay, and I'm starting to hear from other landlords where they got a call from their tenant, and the tenant said, I just heard what the governor said, and we're not going to pay our rent this month. Now, they still have their jobs. They still have money coming in. They're not in a hardship. So that's someone who won't pay. So you have the can't pays and you have the won't pays. And there's a difference between the two. And that there's a big difference. And I promise you, if I have any won't pays, I'll get them out of the houses so fast. Because again, going back to David Tilney's rules, they have to be easy to work with. But if someone wants to take advantage of the system, that's a problem. And here's the thing with landlords. And David went to his tenants, David Tilney, great landlord teacher, davidtilney.com. But he went to his tenants 2 weeks ago, same time I went to my tenants. And the conversation he had, he made sure they understood, there was a shared understanding of what was happening, that no matter what, David still had to make his mortgage payments, and he still had to pay property taxes, and he still had to pay insurance, and he still had to maintain the property. So landlords still had their expenses, but the tenants aren't paying them. Now you got a problem. And I don't want someone in one of my houses who don't get that. They don't understand this is a team sport that we're in.
That's a very interesting conversation to have, Bill, because I mean, if money's not coming in and there's a mortgage payment to be made, okay, if I can't make the mortgage payment, all of a sudden you're getting evicted due to foreclosure versus non-payment. So that's a great thing to be able to bring up.
Yeah, so the tenant, they want to keep the house. If the tenant wants to keep the house, they have to understand the landlord has to still make that mortgage payment. Tenant doesn't pay, mortgage doesn't get paid, there is a foreclosure, the tenant will have to move out. So then what? Go ahead, Larissa.
So I just want to mention, actually, I have a webinar with David Tilney scheduled. I think at some point Bill's going to get him on a web conference too, but I do have a webinar with him on April 23rd coming up. So you can register for that by going to advantaira.com/events. But he's going to talk about master leasing and, a little bit about being a landlord. So he spoke at one of the local meetings here. I think it was in January, maybe it may have been February, early February, but, and so I asked him to do a webinar with us. And of course the intent was really to preview his upcoming class, but it's either canceled or postponed at this point, I believe. He may still be looking at that. But anyway, so that's April 23rd, if anybody's interested in learning more about David Tilney and what he teaches for being a landlord.
Two things. One is he did cancel his class, Larissa, but he also has pointed out to me more than 10 times that he enjoys doing the webinar with you. He is not looking forward to doing the webinar with me. That he likes you a lot better. And he's like, I don't know why you're wasting my time. He said, if you want to learn anything, why don't you just come watch what Larissa and I talk about. She's nice. She's pretty. She knows what she's talking about. So there's
Some
Tilney.
people share that sentiment, Bill.
Have you noticed that? Hey, Carrie, you're sitting in your car during this whole time. Are you getting cold? Are you getting hot? Are you okay?
He died.
Carrie? We lost Carrie. His cell phone died.
No, there. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can hear
now
you.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
Did you
okay.
did you
No,
did you have to step out and relieve yourself? Are you okay?
No, I'm good. No,
Are
I'm
you
good.
in
The
the
weather
hearse?
is
Wait,
beautiful.
wait.
No, no,
Are you in
the
the?
hearse is gone. The hearse is gone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that.
I'm in the new work van, which we nicknamed the. I'm in the new work van. We nicknamed the Tidy Whitey. So we're.
Okay,
So anyway, we're
so
good. But no, I wanted to go back to the whole David Tilney thing like that because
Larissa, can you unmute?
Yes.
Go ahead,
So
Gary.
anyway, what I was going to say was, you guys, I took a little bit different approach about reaching out to my tenants. I'm like I said, I'm seeing them when I'm fixing things and all that. I am not broadcasting that, and this is for a little bit of protection to me. I'm not broadcasting that, hey, we're going to do any type of rent relief or anything like that. I'm kind of waiting for them to call and check on me because I know there's other investors going, hey, we're just going to cut your rent in half across the board. Well, that don't make financial sense if they're
No.
not going to, because not all our tenants have a need for that. So we're kind of letting them reach out to us. We are calling and checking to make sure everything's good, but I just wanted people to understand that you don't have to have this conversation like, hey, if you're having a tough time, we'll cut your rent. You don't want to bring that up because you're opening up a can of worms, and then it's the give them an inch and they're going to take a mile type situation. So you guys need to be very careful during those conversations, the words that you use, because you don't want
Agreed.
the tenants to misinterpret your generosity. So just be very mindful of the words that you use because sometimes tenants hear things differently than we say.
And
And then they said,
also remember, come up with a custom-made solution. So I know a number of investors. I know one investor in particular that I think he cut his rents by 50% for everybody. Well, Kim and I didn't do that. But the solution we came up with for the couple who were in the restaurant business is custom made for them. If someone else calls me up, I'll custom make it for them. So don't, again, I'm not a big believer in having a broad brush thing. With each person, let's sit down and talk. Let's have a conversation and tell me what your problem is. So I use the T-bar. Tell me what the problem is. Let's come up with a solution for your problem because your problem is be different from someone else's problem. Maybe you can pay some, you can't pay all. Maybe you need a break this month, but not next month. Maybe if I give you a discount, what if you pay the rent for the rest of the year right now, and I give you a 10% discount because you have the money sitting in the bank, but that will give you a break on the rent. So there's a lot of different ways you can go to structure a solution to a problem.
yeah, I agree. And like I said, we've had one tenant call us saying, hey, I'm self-employed. He's been with us for almost 7 years. He's been a great tenant. And he said, I need help. I said, we're going to help you. But I'm just not going to go out and broadcast that to everybody because then everybody's like, well, if you're doing it to this guy, you should do it for me. That was an isolated incident. But as other people call us and need us because they know, like I said, we do the 4 rules of David Tilney. We use the David Tilney program, which is phenomenal. And we tell them up front, you got to have that communication. And, that phone line works both ways. You let us know if you need anything, and we're going to be Johnny on the spot, we're going to figure this out. So, so he called, and we helped him with, we did a 60-day rent relief, not rent forgiveness, but we lowered his payment by $250, and he's agreed to repay that, either in a lump sum or, in payments that we structured depending on how this thing plays out. And we told him we'll do it on a 60-day trial run, and if we need to extend it, we will. If we come out of this in 60 days, and we're working on a repayment plan. But yeah,
Has he filed
and
his
when you have
taxes
those,
yet?
huh?
Has he-
I don't know. I don't know.
I've
But
had
the
something
funny
pop in
thing
my
is,
head that might be cool.
yeah, absolutely. But anyway, what I'm getting at is, like I said, just don't broadcast, that you're, that you're an open purse, because that's going to get you in financial trouble. But be on the same token, be willing to help these folks, and I guarantee you will get a loyalty out of those tenants that you do help. They're not going to leave you, and they're going to be like, Gary, he helped me out when I was in a pinch, and that goes a long way with them too. So,
Hey, Carrie, can you describe what kind of purse you have these days that you carry around with you?
the richest man in Babylon purse.
Yeah,
I like
So,
that purse.
nice.
there you go. There you go. That's the kind of purse I have.
Okay, last question for you guys. What advice do you have? And Larissa, I'm going to start with you. What advice do you have for investors out there who are going through this downturn, let's say for the first time?
What advice do I have for investors?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess what I'm going to kind of go back to, having lived through the recession, and it was difficult for me and my husband. We were kind of newly married, and both the industries that we were in at the time, both were hard hit. And so the sort of advice that I have really for everybody, something that I learned is, as soon as we started coming out of that, like Bill said, he built his war chest, and that's what we did too. And so if during this time you're not prepared, keep that in mind for when we do come out of it, because, having that war chest makes you feel, comfortable. Like, maybe it's not where you want it to be, or the circumstances aren't as good as you hope that they will be, but it's definitely different for us this time around than it was in the recession. Of course, we're older now, we're wiser now, but we definitely changed the way that we handle things because we've been through that. And so if you haven't been through something like this before, it's going to be, as Bill and Kim say, it's going to be a hard seminar if you weren't prepared, but then just always keep that in your mind going forward. Learn from this so that you can move forward.
Joe? Thanks, Larissa.
That was really good. Thank you. First thing that I would suggest is that if you haven't been through a downturn, go to the gray hairs. So go talk to folks that have already been through it.
Damn it.
Or go
That
to
was
the
mine.
in Bill's case.
That was mine. That's what I had. That was my piece of advice.
So
Go ahead.
Go talk to folks that have already been through it. Go to the people that have been through multiple ones. Ask them, what should I be doing? So I was on the phone with Peter Fortunato the other day, checking up on him. And one of the things that he started talking about was
losing his mind.
The
government stepping in, and he's losing his mind.
So he said, right now is a great time for you to go talk to your private lenders and see, how they're doing, but also keep in the back of your mind, you can talk to your private lenders and do things like, if you've got an amortized note, can we drop the interest only right now and lower the monthly payment on a property so that your cash flow doesn't take a big hit if you're having troubles with tenants in distress, just little things like that. And the other thing that will happen when you go to the white hairs that have already been through this is that they're going to be suggesting strategies for you to be paying attention to start implementing as soon as things get righted. And so that's a big deal. So the next thing that I have out of it advice is it's time to break out your old manuals. It's time to go and re-listen to the seminars that you have. I'll go ahead and tell you, my Jack Miller's playing right now. I've got Jack playing in my truck. He was under our house with me yesterday, and I'm listening to option stuff because options is going to be a big deal. But get out there and start listening and getting back into your education, because what was working is about to not be working, and it's probably already obsolete. So you've got to go through the things that was working once upon a time, and if you have to change it and make it work for what's coming now, that'll still be what you need to brush up on. So make sure you're there. Next thing is don't make any big decisions yet. All right. So people can get freaking out and do some silly things. Here's a great case in point. Everybody went and bought all the toilet paper in the world. What kind of silliness is that? I mean, I put this in my column the other day. I've had to make a run or perhaps maybe a little waddle for toilet paper, but I've never seen
Can you
a
not use the
run
word?
on toilet paper.
Can you not use the word run and toilet paper in the same sentence? Please use something else.
Oh man, I found a great GIF for that. It was off of Seinfeld where I think her name's Elaine goes in there, grabs a bunch of toilet paper and's running out. And it was really funny. But don't make any big decisions right now. The chaos is about to ensue, and you don't need to make a big decision before you actually have enough information to be able to make a decision. So chill out on that. And the last thing is, like I said, be default aggressive. Another way to say being default aggressive is being proactive versus reactive. So we have to do a little bit of reacting because we're still unsure of what's going on right now, but you can do something. Identify what that thing is, identify what's the most important thing is, prioritize and execute it and get it done. But be default aggressive. Don't just stick your head in the dirt and be an ostrich. So that won't work well.
That was great, Joey, other than you stole two of my things. But other than that,
Well, you can say them. I'm sure you'll say them differently.
hey, Carrie, how about you? What advice do you have for investors who are going through a downturn for the first time?
Well, I agree with Joey. And it kind of goes back to what I said previous. It's your network. You need to start networking if you're not already. You need to start networking with people that are successful and that have a track record through this. You know, the guys that have only been doing this 2 or 3 years, as smart as they are, probably not. You know, they might know it in theory, but they don't know it. They've never really executed this. And I would go through, go to the people that have been doing this for 10, 20 years and say, what was it like? What do I need to do differently? And just be respectful of their time. But at the same time, these are the guys that I surround myself with, and everybody I've basically hang out with is real estate investors, and they've been doing it a long time. And you just got to have those minds that to draw upon and go, what can I do differently? And like I said, you've got to start studying up on different tools for your toolbox. You're going to start seeing a lot of subject twos coming around if this thing continues the way it is. So I would be, you need to learn lease options. You need to learn master leasing. You need to learn, shoot, what am I trying to think? Anyway, but there's certain techniques that people are really going to, be more important than wholesaling or this, that. Now, Vina will tell you she makes her most money in a down market. So I'm not saying wholesaling's bad. I'm just saying it's going to be different than the way they wholesale today. And so you just need to, if you're a wholesaler, you need to study up what's it going to take me to survive in a less demand, less seller market. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, you've got to go with the guys with the experience and just hang around them, and then talk to your financial friends. Like I said, make strong bonds with them, and just like, listen, how can we work together? How can I help you, and how can you help me? And let's get through this thing. But yeah, that's
Thank you,
all.
Carrie.
You're welcome.
Good stuff. And since Carrie and Joey and Larissa took all of my wisdom already, the one thing I have is whenever things get pretty tough, I quit being, and I've never been one who's problem driven. I'm solution driven. And I think when Larissa, when we first started looking at this 3 or 4 days ago about how to do webinars, I said we're going to mess up. We're going to get people who are idiots who can't get their video to work on their cell phone. We said that these things would happen. And what? Anyway, we said these things would happen, and I said, we're going to keep focused on the solution to the problem. We're going to keep going at the problem. or go and find a solution to the problem and focus on the solution. So with whatever's going on, don't get in this circle of just being around the problem, repeating the problem over and over and over and over and getting, yourself caught up. List down the solutions. What do I need to do to fix this? And then get at it. Get busy. But don't just sit there and play video games and watch TV and watch the news all the time, because the news isn't changing, minute by minute. It's changing like day to day. So back when I was a kid, don't say it, you guys. I
Oh my
swear to
God.
God, I'll shut up.
Whew.
But when I was a kid, the news came on at 6
They didn't
o'clock
have
at night, and you
video
watch it.
games, kid. What are you talking about? Did they even have the news channel then? Did they
I love
print
my
stuff
friends.
then? It's like over there
Hey,
chiseling
hey, no,
on
no.
tablets,
Hey,
man.
hey, Carrie's yabba dabba doo, not me. Carrie's
Yeah.
yabba dabba doo.
I hear you.
Anyway, so the news came on at 6 at night, and you watched Cronkite, and you watched until 6:30, and that was it. The whole world was there, and that was all the news you saw for the whole doggone day. We were done.
Who?
So kind of do a little bit of that, but get busy. So solution driven. So and one
Hey
of the
Bill,
things, Joe,
can I interrupt real quick and add one
you
thing
always
to that?
you always do, but you never ask permission. Why
All
ask
right, well
permission this time?
then be quiet. Let me say what I got to say. Um, no, the other thing is, going back to the people you talk to. If you hang around the people that are just the naysayers and oh God, the chicken littles, the world's coming to an end. That's all you're going to see. But if you're around people that are creative and go, you know what, there's ways around this, and there's positive things that can be done. You start picking up on that vibe, and that's the reason I don't hang out with anybody that's negative. I can't deal with it, and I don't want to get sucked into the marrow of a pity party. So when things are going like this, when you start talking to the older guys again, and again, I'm just saying this as you're networking, hang around people that go, you know what, this ain't going to be the death of us. This is going to be, it'll be a bump in the road. Yeah, we'll fall off the bike. We'll pick ourselves up, you know, uh, dust our pants off, jump up on the bike, and continue down the road. And that's the type of people you need to hang around with. You can't hang around these people going, oh my God, this is going to be the end of the world, because they will suck you down that rabbit hole, and it's tough to find out when you have those negative thoughts. So just be conscious of who you're hanging around.
Well, if you look at everybody on this call, if you've been listening to the four of us, there's not one, there's no pessimism here. There's no, oh, we're all going to die. Anywhere between the four of us, we realize there's a problem. We're going to look at the problem. We're going to find a solution. We're going to work the solution. And we know the cheese just moved. We're going to find out where the cheese is going to be, and that's where you're going to find us. And so remember, with the negative people in your life, you can't push a rope. You can pull it, but you can't push it. And I learned that lesson when I used to be with Electrolux. When I was around negative people, just no matter what I did, in the end, they brought me down, and I did not bring them up. What a waste of time. So the final thought was, Joe talked about options. I'm going to be doing an option webinar for Vina Jones-Cox tomorrow. And I think she's going to post it a little bit later on, but doing that. I'm also working on an options course. But I will tell you real fast that the best options course we know of is done by Jack Miller. There's options 1 and options 2 course. You can find that on cashflowdepot.com, Jackie Lang's site. But the things I learned, the structuring I learned, came from Jack Miller and Pete Fortunato and David Tilney, Dyke Spotiford, John Schaub. Those are the greats, the absolute greats, best teachers. So anyway, Joe, I think you have a column to write.
Yes, and it's now 11 o'clock my time, which is when I normally send it to my proofer. So this is exciting. I have no idea what I'm writing about today, but
yeah. Well, we'll write about this call. So take some of your notes, and there's your outline. But also, how do people find your column?
It's cashflowwithjoe.com.
Okay, and I'll talk a little bit about Joe's column. I'm going to be doing another webinar this afternoon with Paul Kloss, who's a real estate investor and a Navy SEAL. But I'll talk about how I got my newspaper column.
With Jocko.
Yeah, I know.
That's really cool. Yeah, Paul's a good guy.
Yeah, Paul's a really good guy. Anyway, so Larissa, are we all done?
We're all done. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Larissa.
I gotta say one last thing. I've never seen Carrie look better. So if we can do more webinars like this has been Great. So always
Gotta
remember
hate.
Carrie, and then always remember Larissa. Love you guys.
Yeah.
Bye.